All right, now we're with Mechs. On Tower Tier 1, we got Cord Puller, kind of irrelevant that it gets 3 attacks. That's about it to it. Metallic Hunter is a new card. This gives you a pointy arrow, which is the gain a bit of attack. Pretty good on Divine Shields. It's okay as spell generation, especially early. Tavern Tier 3, the new Magnetic Springy Spriggan. Magnetic at the end of turn, give your other mechs +1 attack. I think this is going to end up being a pretty good Magnetic that you definitely are willing to take late game, especially because there's a little bit of Drakari synergy in Magnetics. So this ends up being an extra like way to proc some effects off of that. Tavern Tier 4 is where we start getting a lot of the new mechs that we might need to start thinking about. So Auto Assembler is a Magnetic Death Rattle, summon a Ancestral Automaton. So you could potentially, have a board that you have 7 of these on 7 of your minions, and just every time a minion dies, you play a bunch of automatons. Is that reasonably going to happen? Probably not. But not a bad mid game card, especially if you already have a couple automatons. Gives you something to kind of play into. Kind of relevant. I'm gonna just talk about Marquee Ticker. Just this is a new end of turn, or not a new, but it's gonna be a end of turn synergy that we should probably consider. Just as a good amalgam type unit, as well as spell generation for the magnetic or for the mech tribe. Um, New 4 drop, a rickety repair bot. At the end of your turn, magnetize a random magnetic mech to this. So you can imagine just if it gets auto assembler, for example, it becomes a 5/5 summon a like 4/6 reasonably. So a lot of stats there. You can potentially give it Divine Shield. You can potentially give it the Spriggan. Like this is always going to be a reasonable minion to play as your 4 drop, and it gives you a lot of long term value. Tavern Tier 5, nothing noteworthy. I guess Element we talked about with Elementals, but um, it's now a 10/10 at Tavern Tier 5. You're generally not going to be picking this really ever. Tavern Tier 6, our one new unit that we need to think about is Electron Powered Up. After you cast 2 Tavern Cells, magnetize a 3/3 satellite to all your mechs to left. So really what we're going to be trying to get from this is a lot of magnetic value. There's still Dr. Boom's monster. So what I imagine the core being for this build is something like Hollow Rover, um, the Electron Powered Up, and Rickety Repair Bot and Marquee Ticker. And the idea is you're just end of turn trying to get as many spells to then get as many magnetics on your Electron. Um, Really, I don't see many other builds outside of like a Serena comp. Serena has its own trinket, so we'll talk about that when we go over the magnetic trinkets. But if you get the trinket, I think Serena comp can be a thing. There'll probably be a little bit of a Serena in the Hollow Rover comp that might be like a fifth minion you play. But really, I think the biggest thing is going to be trying to get as many magnetics. That way, your Doctor Booms eventually have the strongest um, like affect themselves. But really, this really encourages you to play full into mechs. Reasonably, you're going to be getting 18/18 permanent stats every time you play 2 spells, which isn't bad at all. So if we start looking at trinkets, um, it does seem like magnetics are going to want to have some type of magnetic synergy, I guess, within their trinkets. So the first trinket that's mech specific is Blingtron Sunglasses. After you summon a mech in combat, give a friendly mech Divine Shield. Something that's kind of noteworthy is the only way we're really resummoning mechs is with like prosthetic hand reborns. And if you're resummoning that, like most of your minions probably still have Divine Shield, so I'm not sure if Blingtrons is really going to be able to get us the value that we need. Next, Greater Trinket, Boom's Monster Portrait. Get a Dr. Boom's Monster. At the start of every turn returns, get another. I personally just think this is too slow. Maybe if it was like an end of turn, so we could use Drakari or something, there would be a little bit of value. But I just think it's generally going to be a little bit too slow. Compasses really aren't super important with mechs as much. You can get some value from getting magnetics. But I would say mechs are one of the tribes that compasses have a little bit lesser value compared to something like Murlocs or a true like value generator. Want to just talk about it? Curator sticker, where you get a mismatch and amalgam. You may have noticed on 5 we no longer have Candors. so we're not able to do a bunch of the amalgam scam type stuff. But Curator Sticker is probably the most relevant in Mechs because you can give your amalgam and the mismatch a divine shield. Serena Portrait, get a charging Serena. Your charging Serenas also give health. I think if you have a Serena board, so one Serena, probably at least one other um, Divine Shield unit, this is probably going to be able to be a reasonable comp where you just try to play as many spells with a bunch of Divine Shield minions, um, and then you eventually trade out into scam with whatever like spell generators you were using in the mid game. But I think this is definitely going to be a way to make that Serena comp a little bit stronger. Right now, it's falls into like this issue where you have a lot of minions that are like 100 health attack with 1 health, and you just die to undead. But if you have some undeads or some health scaling, you might be able to start doing some 2 or 3 for 1 trades with your buffed minions. Next one is let's talk about Drakari Portrait. We did mention how Drakari would be an element and a mech. There is a little bit of end of turn synergy. Thinking of like the marquee ticker and the Rickety repair bot. It definitely like we don't have the juggernaut anymore for that end of turn synergy. But there's a couple end of turn effects that it is a little bit relevant that Drakari could be useful in this with. And then we also talk about the Spriggan. So there's definitely a little bit of stats there that we can get out of that and try to use Drakari to proc our Electron a couple more times. Electric Shrine. Start a combat, get a friendly minion of each. This is. I thought it was a mech one, but it looks like it's more of an amalgam comp. Um, Fancy Spellbook, another one where, if you notice, we don't really have gold generation anymore. We don't have a Cordatron as a magnetic. So gold generation is going to be a little bit harder. And with that in mind, Spellbook probably isn't going to be that great as a spell generator um, for your like mech comps. If we just keep going through, Fridge Magnet, kind of similar. Purge Magnet used to be kind of doable when there was like the ability to duplicate your magnetic effects, but I think just having Electron as our 6 drop magnetic kind of player, I don't think Bridge Magnet is ever really going to be that great of a card for us. There's no reason for us to try and like duplicate our magnetic effects right now. So I think Bridge Magnet generally is going to be a little bit more of a um, bake. I forgot to check. Was automaton portrait is in? So automatons are going to be best with mechs. Um, Skip that one. Um, Goblin Wallet is another end of turn synergy, so keep that in mind that the Goblin Wallet does trigger off of Drakari's. Same thing with Goldenizer Supply. Let's see anything else really quick. Chestnut's gonna be really good with amalgams. Uh, Kaboombot, did I see? Am I tripping or did was so yeah, Kaboombot I think is always going to be a bait because you may have noticed there's no Kaboombots in the pool, so you're never going to be able to get the like 2 procs off of them. This is interesting that there's a similar thing with the elementals and living azurite. I don't know if this is just a like the website for Blizzard it doesn't have those updates, but it's very strange to have these minions that um where you're like given a minion, but they're not part of the set. It's a little strange, and I'm not sure if that's intentional or not. Um, Portable Factory, I think, is actually worth talking about. Discover a 5 drop minion with a type at the start of each turn, get another copy of it. I think it's worth talking about with mechs because Serena, Rover are both 5 drops, and like if assuming every tribe has about 3 5 drops, like if you have 2 very good ones, that as a trinket isn't going to be that bad. It is kind of worth noting, like if you're getting Serena and you don't have the Serena sticker, you're probably going to be a little bit weaker. But at least if you get Rover, you can get a lot of sets off that. I think Redeemer Portrait's worth talking about in mechs the most because of what I was talking about with the marquee ticker. Getting some spell generation, like Nala really needs the spell generation, and that's just one that you can actually use with it. Reusable batteries is a new lesser trinket. The first time you buy a minion each turn, get a magnetic satellite with its stats. So worst thing is this gives you a like one gold generation. Something that I think you can do, and they don't make it very clear, but I'm assuming this can triple. So what you can potentially do is just buy one unit every turn, not actually magnetize the satellites, and use this to guarantee a triple on turn 9. So that's what I think the most valuable thing out of this is you can essentially guarantee two, maybe three triples if you don't necessarily play the magnetic right away. There's no reason that you have to. In the early game, you're just playing stats, so just using this to kind of aggressively level up and get guarantee that early triple. Maybe you can triple with another unit at the same time and get two 6 drops early. There's definitely a play that you can use as lesser trinket to get some early tempo started. Um, Spell Powered Wrench, a 2 cost lesser trinket. After you play a magnetic minion, get a random tavern spell. Clearly, this is after you play a magnetic, not else you could go like infinite with Electron. But this definitely seems like a pretty good one to get a little bit of spell generation. Um, this actually might be the best lesser trinket going into something like the what was it called? The magnetic generator, the fridge magnet. So what you could do is use fridge magnet to generate your magnetics. You can use spell powered wrench to generate tavern spells as a result of that, and then you can get more magnetics using your electron power up. And really, the biggest thing to call out with this is electron it only gets a lot of value if Doctor Booms start getting played. Otherwise, like 3/3 isn't the best amount of stats, but each of those 3/3s, you're playing 6 of them permanently, is giving your all your Doctor Booms that you play a 12/12 buff. Just check if there's anything else worth talking about. Turbocharged Drill, a 5 cost greater trinket. Get 5 different magnetic mechs of any tier. Um, I guess it's worth calling out that you might be able to get a couple Doctor Booms. If we look at how many magnetics there are, so there's Boom at 6, there's Technical Element at 5, there's Prosthetic Hand, Auto Assembler, there's Spriggan. So it looks like there's five. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah. So you can expect to get one of oh, so you are guaranteed to get one of each of them, I think. One, two, three, four, five. Yeah, because they do call out that it is different ones. So it is worth calling out that this is a guaranteed one of each of them, which does mean you can guarantee get one extra automaton from the auto assembler, and you can guarantee get a Dr. Booms to start scaling. So it is, I think this actually becomes better than a lot of people have been giving it credit for, assuming they don't add a new magnetic to what's listed here because you're guaranteed getting a Dr. Boom's monster, especially if you already have an Electron powered up, this becomes a much stronger trinket. I also think if you have a lesser trinket with Spell Powered Wrench and you have the Electron, that just goes crazy to start and try to stabilize you on turn 9. Um, and it looks like that's the end of the magnetic and mech comp trinket. So, anyways, good luck. Hopefully this stuff's been helpful for you. See ya. Bye.